Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast. The Waco History Podcast is sponsored by Brotherwell Brewery on historic Bridge Street in Waco.
Welcome to the Waco History Podcast. We're going to air for you over the next few months a special series of Waco History Living Stories. These were segments that were originally aired on KWVU here in Waco. They were produced by the Institute for Oral History editor, Michelle Holland, and narrated by two fabulous narrators, Louis Maze and Kim Patterson. And so these highlight oral histories from the collection of the Institute for Oral History at Baylor University, which I direct, which has been around since 1970 and has over 1,000 interviews related to Waco and McLennan County history, and we're happy to highlight those here. This Living Stories excerpt talks about the first black teachers that moved into white schools with a period of integration.
Among southern states, Texas was a leader in the desegregation of public education. In 1964, Texas accounted for approximately 60% of integrated school districts in the South. Robert Lewis Gilbert was the first black teacher to be hired in a white school in Waco and describes taking on that position.
Everybody was telling me before I went, well, you know, white kids, you're going to really have to do something to teach them, you know, and there was a kind of a question in my mind as to whether or not I would be able to keep up with these kids if they were so smart. But after a few moments of observation during my student teaching, I detected that there were some geniuses, some average, and some mediocre whites, just as there were blacks. And boy, I said, well, you know, it dawned on me that, you know, people are people. And those kids, many of them, they looked for guidance toward knowledge, and they were looking for me to pour it out. And many people had me under the impression that I was to go there, and these children were going to ask me certain questions and things that I wouldn't be able to answer them, and it would show me as inferior.
Maggie Washington pioneered teacher integration in the Midland Independent School District. She recalls the reactions from her new white co-workers.
Even the custodian tried to give me a hard time. A lot of teachers were so disgruntled that they were working with a black teacher that they went to the principal. He was a Christian man. And he said, now anybody who doesn't want to work with Maggie Washington, put your request for transfer on my desk. So several of them put their request for transfer on his desk. And one man on my wing, he went to the principal and said, I just want to know something. What criteria did you use to get Maggie Washington? And the principal told him. I only told him, he let him read it.
At a PTA meeting, that teacher made sure Washington spoke last.
The baby I spoke, and I was talking about my favorite subject as related to everyday life. I brought it right on down front. When that meeting was over, the white parents just rushed up. Girl, you couldn't see me. And there was a teacher whose husband was there, and he was out there. He said, won't put her on again. She is good. So the principal called me in the next morning and just fell out laughing. He said, you fixed them good. I said, I wasn't trying to. I just discussed social studies.
Washington also faced a challenge in winning over some of her students. She recalls an encounter with a girl in her 5th grade class.
I said, Elder Mina, what's wrong, honey? My mama doesn't like Negroes. I said, oh, why? She said they steal and fight. I said, are those Negroes that live in Mexican town that's doing all that stealing and fighting? Oh, no, ma'am. Okay, I said, you tell your mother that.
The Supreme Court case Brown versus Board of Education is more than half a century behind us. But since then, de facto resegregation has become a growing concern, especially in large cities in the Northeast and Midwest, where the most segregated schools today are located.
Thanks for listening to the Waco History Podcast. Like what you heard? Subscribe, rate, and review our show on iTunes so we can reach more listeners. You can find show notes and info on every episode at wacohistorypodcast.com, and more info on Waco's past at wacohistory.org. Our theme music, used with permission, is Cross the Brazos at Waco, performed by the late Billy Walker. For more info on Billy's music, go to billywalker.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. This has been a Rogue Media Network production.